Hello YouTube, Bane666 here. I've got a very interesting video for you guys today. I have to admit, I've been wrong about something. I thought that a particular thing in the world was a particular way, but apparently I was wrong. It's the exact opposite. You see, I've been under the impression for a very long time now that the female reproductive pill was something that revolutionized female lives, that changed their lives, that opened the door to many new possibilities, that allowed them to control their reproductive process. Now, apparently, I'm not the only one who thought this wrong thing, which we'll explore in a minute. But apparently a lot of other people were also under this misconception, as you'll see in these two video clips.
The invention of the birth control pill revolutionized life for women in America. It's completely changed women's options.
The pill promised to free women from biological bonds, and it did just that. In the 1950s, women made up about a third of the workforce. Today, women hold nearly half of all U.S. jobs. In the 1950s, American women on average had 3.8 children. Today, that number has dropped to 2.1.
It made them able to pursue higher education, to pursue careers, and to plan the size of their families, which was something they'd never been able to do before.
For the first decade after its creation, the pill could only be legally prescribed to married women. Still, it was condemned by the Catholic Church and by many conservatives.
It was really considered immoral to suggest that women's primary role should not be that of wife and mother, but rather that women should have rights to experience their sexuality free of consequence, just like men have always done.
To experience their sexuality free of consequence, just like men have always done. You might want to tell that to fathers who are paying child support for kids that they didn't want. And in some cases were tricked into having, and in other cases aren't even their own children. But apart from that, it's just one big fuckfest for men. We can apparently do whatever we want without any consequences.
It's good to be the king.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, on to that second clip.
Rise and resist! Rise and resist!
All over the world, women are undervalued and exploited. And while the fight for equality continues, female empowerment has improved significantly, but only relatively recently. The catalyst for that change might be down to one of the most important healthcare inventions in the 20th century. Here's how the pill gave women power. Over 100 years ago, as the women's suffrage movement forced voting rights in the US, a social activist was fighting for something we might take for granted today: a woman's control over her own body. Margaret Sanger, a nurse from New York, was imprisoned for opening a birth control clinic in 1916, what would then go on to become Planned Parenthood in America. At a time when anti-obscenity laws prevented doctors even discussing birth control with their patients, early forms of contraception were taboo and relatively ineffective. A woman could have many more children than she might want, be able to care for, or physically survive. Sanger's own mother died at the age of 49 after having 22 pregnancies. Following decades of campaigning, Sanger saw a federal ban on birth control lifted, but she continued in her quest to find something better, what she imagined as a magic pill. She was introduced to a scientist, Gregory Pincus, who'd had success preventing ovulation in rabbits by testing the hormone progesterone. With the financial backing of another women's rights campaigner, Catherine McCormick, and a fertility expert called John Rock, Pincus began developing a drug so groundbreaking it would simply become known as the pill. Its first iteration was called Enovid, made by G.D. Searle. The company applied to the FDA for approval, and to avoid licensing problems, the pill was labelled as being for disturbances of menstruation rather than birth control. On the 9th of May 1960, Enovid was made available to married American women. Within 2 years, 1.2 million women were using it. And it didn't take long for the pill to catch on around the world. Compared to other forms of contraception, the pill is discreet, easy to use, and much more effective, especially as the choice was now in women's hands, not men's. Since the introduction of the pill, the number of unwanted pregnancies dropped significantly, as did the number of infant and maternal deaths. An economic revolution was also in the making. Taking the pill meant women could delay when they had children, dedicate time to an education and a career without fear of accidental pregnancy or having to commit to a life of abstinence. More women started degrees and entered more male-dominated courses like medicine, law and dentistry that tended to have longer periods of study, a barrier to entry previously for women expected to marry and have children by their early 20s. By 1972, the pill became available to all US citizens, and the numbers studying such degrees rose rapidly. This in turn led to higher employment rates and better careers. The number of women in management and professional occupations also rose dramatically, from 19.9% in 1970 to 51% in 2011. The pill also affected those who weren't taking it. As more and more were empowered to focus on careers and delay starting families, the dynamics of marriage changed, with the average age of women tying the knot starting to get older. Margaret Sanger's relentless pursuit of improving women's sexual rights also led to unarguable economic benefits for the United States. It's estimated that for every dollar invested in family planning programs, federal and state governments save over $7 because of unintended pregnancies that were prevented. And it's unlocked a lot of earning power. In 1965, 26.2 million women were in the US labour force. By 2014, the number had risen to 73 million. Achieving or improving gender equality isn't as simple as just introducing a contraceptive drug. Despite earning more college degrees than men for the last 30 years, women still remain underrepresented at every level in corporate America. Fully closing the gender pay gap could increase total female earnings by $2 trillion across the OECD, so there's a long way to go and plenty more to fight for.
Yes, I agree. We definitely need to end the wage gap, which is why I encourage women to work like a man. That's right, ladies. If you want to end the wage gap, you need to work longer hours and in more dangerous jobs. It's that simple. So I think we should encourage an end to the wage gap by encouraging women to work like a man. I'm sure that will go down well with feminists. But anyway, that's off topic. We're talking about the little pill of oppression here. Now, that might sound like a strange thing to say, considering the videos you just saw were saying how liberating the pill was for women, but apparently that's wrong. We've all been misled. Apparently the pill was designed by evil men who were obviously working for the patriarchy in an attempt to cause women pain and suffering with the side effects, just so that the patriarchy could keep them oppressed. See, this is why we need to smash the patriarchy. This is how cunning it is. It creates something which, on the surface, appears to benefit the lives of women, but secretly, it's just another form of oppression. That patriarchy is so fucking sneaky. What can I say? It just needs to be smashed. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead in the story here because we have to take a step back and actually talk about the male contraception pill, which is in testing at the moment. So at the moment, they've only tested the new version of the male pill for a month. So there was a small number of men who tested for a month, and it had some fairly severe side effects on some of them. So the side effects ranged from headaches to fatigue to a decrease in sex drive to erectile dysfunction. I guess that's a good way to stop pregnancy. But apparently the side effects weren't so severe that any of the men taking it had to stop. But having said that, this is still very, very early stages of the testing, and the professionals making the pill say it probably won't be available for at least another 10 years. So this is really, really early. There's still a lot of testing to be done, and it's a long way before it's going to be available. So you would think this is a good thing. You would think that a lot of people would be celebrating this. that now, men can also take the reproductive pill as well as women. It gives couples a lot more choice, right? But apparently not. Some people in the comment section had a totally different view on this. Now, the thing with just about any drug is there's always the possibility of side effects, and often this comes down to the individual taking it and even what other prescription drugs they may be taking. These things can interact in strange ways sometimes. And it really comes down to a cost-benefit scenario. Does the benefit of taking it outweigh the cost or the side effects? And if the answer is yes, then, it's a good thing, right? Now, you might argue that sometimes the side effects of certain prescription drugs are really negative, and that's true. But once again, if the benefit is greater than the cost, then ultimately you're ahead, right? If it saves your life or whatever, then the negative side effects are worth it. Now, contraception's a little bit different than a lot of drugs because it's not something someone's taking out of necessity. In most cases, I know some women take the contraception pill to regulate their periods, but most of the time it's not something which you have to take. It's not something that's going to save your life or improve your health or anything like that. The benefit is being able to have a sex life without pregnancy. And there are other options you can use, right, apart from the pill. Especially for women, there are many, many different options you can use apart from the pill. So it really comes down to each individual woman to decide for herself, is the benefit of taking the pill worth any side effects? And once again, this really comes down to an individual and how the side effects affect them. Some women may be able to take the pill with minimum side effects, or even none. Others might have severe side effects. Maybe trying a different type of pill will minimize the side effects. There's lots of options. But at the end of the day, if the side effects are too severe, if the cost outweighs the benefit in the eyes of that individual, then you have the option of simply not taking it. Now, women being adult, autonomous beings who are capable of making choices for their own lives, I would think would be capable of not taking the female reproductive pill if the cost, if the side effects outweighed the benefit, right? But apparently not. Apparently women are incapable of making that choice, and they're forced to take it by the patriarchy, which is just doing this to oppress women. Don't believe me? Let's have a look at the comment section to this article about the male birth control pill. There's some amazing stuff in it. Benjamin says, given the opportunity, I would try it. If it affected my well-being, I would stop. Now, I think that is a very, very common sense comment, right? I agree 100% with Benjamin. Try it, and if it has a negative effect, stop it. I mean, that's just common sense, right? But let's have a look at Isabella's reply here. She says, said a man while telling a woman to take hers. Well, that's strange. I didn't see Benjamin telling anyone to take any type of medication. But apparently Isabel knows that Benjamin secretly forces the pill on women. Probably just random women on the bus. Sees a woman, forces her to take the female reproductive pill, or as I think we should start calling it, the patriarchal oppression pill. Because clearly Benjamin is just that type of person. Now, Isabella did get some comments saying, what are you talking about? Benjamin didn't actually say that. And Virginia came to her defense. Honey, don't you worry about all these men hating on you, girl. You spoke out the obvious. She was generalizing men who want women to use contraception and don't think about the side effects for us. Not this one in particular. Even a 7th grader would get that. Duh. And you were right. These men apparently don't want to understand the obvious and prefer hating on you. Yeah. Interesting, because if you read her comment, she is clearly replying to Benjamin. But anyway, why is generalizing about men any better? I have to wonder. And then we have a comment from Cody. Cody says, I assume any long-term studies will reveal similar risks as female birth control or any other hormonal drug treatment. Vasectomy is probably the safer option, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, I would generally agree with this comment, although obviously vasectomy is not an option for everyone. Sure, if you're a 40-year-old male who has a couple of kids and don't want any more, yeah, vasectomy is probably a good way to go. But, if you're 18 and you don't have any kids and you want to have kids one day, you probably want to avoid the vasectomy, maybe go with condoms or something. But Nicole tends to disagree with Cody. She says, if it's safe and tolerable enough for women, it's safe and tolerable enough for men. Yes, don't worry about testing it to see what the side effects are going to be. The fact that the female birth control pill, the patriarchal oppression pill has made women suffer for decades, that's cause enough to rush a new medication on the market just to make men suffer. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work, right? We're not concerned with that. All we're concerned about is making men suffer out of revenge because they forced the patriarchal oppression pill on the poor women's. Now, further down in the thread, Nicole has another comment, once again replying to Cody. She says, it should still be an option for those that can and want to take it. Yeah, I agree. Stopping drug trials because some people experience the effects women endure is asinine. Well, I don't know if you read the article, Nicole, but they're not stopping testing. In fact, they think they'll have it out in 10 years. This is just the first round of testing. You do a round of testing, and then you look at the results and you make adjustments. And then you do another round of testing based on those adjustments, and you compare and see if it's an improvement or whatnot. But I think Nicole thinks you should just continue the testing without any break or any changes. Apparently that's good enough. Strange. And I would also point out, Nicole, who, just a suggestion, Nicole, maybe you should have read the article, because one of the side effects was erectile dysfunction. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know of any biological women who have erectile dysfunction because of the female reproductive pill. Sorry, the patriarchal oppression pill. I don't know if that causes erectile dysfunction in biological women. And I do say biological women because I can't imagine that trans women would be taking the female reproductive pill. Sorry, I stuffed up again. The patriarchal oppression pill. Nicole goes on to say, if this is the standard the medical and scientific community want to meet, then hormonal contraception for women should be pulled from the market because it's obviously too dangerous, problematic for women if they so choose to take it. Really, Nicole. So we should pull the female hormonal drug from the market, which has been available for 60 years now, because we're not rushing the male pill to the market because it's not perfected yet. Yeah, that sounds like sound logic there, Nicole. Yeah. Anyway. And then we have an interesting comment from Jersey Girl. She says, interesting how men negatively react to the side effects that came with taking the medicine. Never thought of those that women are suffering since over 60 years now. And in addition, we don't know if the decreasing of libido in those men are created by psychological effects, e.g. by thinking, I'm not man enough when I am not able to reproduce myself, or similar thoughts. You never know. Well, I think Jersey Girl brings up some interesting points here. Why would the scientists think that it's introducing hormones into the male body that may cause strange medical side effects? Obviously not. What an insane thing to think that introducing different levels of hormone would have a physical effect on a male body. Clearly, it's all psychological. Clearly, this is a case of masculinity so fragile. These men, who are obviously brainwashed by the patriarchy, the fact that they can't reproduce themselves in the thousands, that is enough to cause them to lose their erections. I mean, if this isn't toxic masculinity, then what is? I mean, you never see women losing their erections based on the female reproductive pill, and that's because women don't have fragile masculinity. So I think Jersey Girl might be onto something here. I think we should hand all further research over to her, even though she clearly doesn't have a medical degree, because she clearly understands exactly how men think. She's got that psychological aspect of the male mind down perfectly. And she's also telepathic, which is great. I think more women should be telepathic. It's just a shame that so many of them have their telepathic powers oppressed by the patriarchy. And we need to put a stop to this. So clearly Jersey Girl has used her immense telepathic powers to read the thoughts of the men who took part in the study. And having read all their minds, she knows that these men didn't give a shit about the negative side effects on women. Clearly all of them are patriarchal shitlords and should probably die as well. I don't think that's too extreme. Clearly they've been oppressing women for 60 years with the patriarchal pill of oppression. So, yeah, a little bit of death wouldn't hurt them, I guess. So next we have a comment from Mark, who hates Nazis. And Mark, who hates Nazis, says, how does it fare in double-blind 10-year trials on the prostate and the chances of elevated PSA levels from the modified hormones entering the body? And you know what, that's a fair question. What is the long-term effects? And with any medication, there can be long-term effects, and realistically, it can be hard to test for that. I mean, who knows what a particular drug will do with 30 years of use? Should we hold off for 30 years while we test it on some test subjects for 30 years? I mean, that's unrealistic. But obviously these things need to be monitored and looked at and changed if they produce any harm in the long term. Mark, who hates Nazis, goes on to say, based on both the ease of the vasectomy and the reversal of the procedure, why risk long-term side effects? Just use condoms until monogamy. And of course we have Nicole answering once again. She's quite active in this comment section. Nicole says, it would be nice if there was this level of concern for women and the drugs produced for us. And you know what? I think Nicole has a very, very good point here. I mean, after all, only 2/3 of medical spending and research is spent on women. Only 2/3. Can you imagine that? Why isn't it 100%? That's my question. Clearly, the patriarchy hates women. And it's trying to kill them all, clearly, by only spending 2/3 of medical spending on them. Shocking. Shocking. How can women live in this society? Anyway, Mark, who hates Nazis, agrees with Nicole that the female contraception pill was terribly researched. But then he finishes up with 100% of unwanted pregnancies are the man's fault. 100% of unwanted pregnancies are the man's fault. That is a very, very interesting statistic, Mark, who hates Nazis. I'm not exactly sure how you came up with that figure, but I'm sure there's some very interesting social justice mathematics going on there. Now, Joseph calls Mark, who hates Nazis, out on his bullshit and questions why are 100% of unwanted pregnancies the fault of only men. And of course, Mark, who hates Nazis, replied. He said, because other than the fairy tale of Mary and Joseph, no woman has ever gotten pregnant without the assistance of a man. Now, I would think, Mark, who hates Nazis, that the key word here is the assistance of a man, because it does involve both a male and a female, Mark. I really don't want to give you a lesson on the birds and the bees. I'm guessing you might need one, though. But, yeah, it does take a man and a woman, and it can, of course, be the fault of either of them or both of them, right? But apparently that's not the case. Apparently it's 100% the fault of men because, I don't know, penis? Patriarchy? Possibly some other words starting with P. I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's a social justice reason behind it somewhere. Now, Tom points out you can't trust these tests. 10 or 20 years from now, something will be found not to have been done right. Well, like I said just minutes ago, who knows what the effects of a long-term drug are going to be, and that applies to any drug. So it's something that should be monitored, but I'm not exactly sure how you research it. I mean, I guess you can experiment on rats, but that has its limitations, obviously. But Tom does get a reply from Cat Masters. Now, that's a very interesting name. I wonder how many cats she is the master of. I'm guessing quite a few, based on her comment. She replies, much like the problems us girls have to compensate for if we choose the pill, so our other half doesn't have the discomfort of a condom. Yes, it's only men who don't like using condoms, apparently. There's never been a woman who finds them uncomfortable. It's only men. The evil, evil men of the patriarchy oppressing the poor helpless women with their unsheathed penises. Shocking, I say. Absolutely fucking shocking. And apparently there are no women who have chosen to use the pill over condoms without being forced to by a man. Why aren't we doing something about this? These poor defenseless women with no agency or autonomy. It's shocking. Now, we have another comment from Nicole, and I gotta say, Nicole is probably the best form of contraception a man could have. I reckon if you spent 5 minutes with her, you wouldn't want to ever have sex with a woman again. Just a guess, based on some of her comments. But I don't totally disagree with her comment here, although, once again, some of it is a bit extreme. Anyway, let's read what she says. She says, if women have that choice, men should too. Yeah, I agree. And the key word here, Nicole, is choice, which is something you seem to forget that women have, at least based on your previous comments. Women have the choice not to use the pill if they don't want to. She goes on to say, let's develop these male contraceptions and get them out on the market for the men who think they're worth taking. Yes, I agree, Nicole, and surprisingly, that's what the article says they're doing. It's just going to take more time, that's all. You can't put a drug on the market if you've tested it once for 30 days. It's going to take a bit longer than that, right? I know you want men to suffer, but you just can't rush the drug out on the market that quickly. But it's not like... She seems to be under the impression that they've scrapped the drug entirely. Yeah, like I said, probably hasn't read the article. She goes on to say, male contraceptives should not be thrown out because they produce the same side effects as women. Yeah, once again, they're not throwing them out, Nicole. They're continuing to test them. Read the fucking article. And second of all, the side effects are not the same. Male and female biology is not the same, at least when it comes to reproduction. It works differently, okay? Biological men do not produce eggs, and biological females do not get erections, okay? Or produce sperm. So obviously the drugs work in different ways and have different effects. She goes on to say, men should have the right to decide for themselves. Support the development of male hormonal contraceptives. Yes, men should have the right to decide for themselves, just like women have for 60 years. Once again, Nicole, no one is forcing women to take the female contraceptive pill. If you have negative side effects, don't take it. If you fear the side effects, don't take it. Use something else. You have other options. It's not designed by men to oppress women. It's not some plot by the patriarchy to hurt women, and wishing harm on men is just petty. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, so the final comment I want to look at is by someone called Tadpole. She says, unlike with female hormones, they want these ones to be safe and preserve quality of life. Yes, unlike the female ones. They were designed to hurt women. Well spotted, Tadpole. Clearly someone left the filing cabinet open at patriarchy headquarters, and you've been looking through the filing cabinet and found the evil plan to oppress women through the female contraception pill. Well done. You figured it out. She goes on to say, female hormones are approved no matter how horrible, serious the effects are. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. Now, I'm not saying that the female contraceptive pill doesn't have some negative side effects. Any drug can. But typically, they don't just approve drugs willy-nilly, right? There's a long process. And she finishes off by saying, also they need to be studied at length to see what long-term effects are possible. 28 days is no time compared to years. Well, obviously, Nicole, it was the first trial. As the article said, it will take roughly 10 years. So, maybe read the article and not just the comment section. Just a thought. I know, crazy. It's a crazy thought. I'm a crazy person coming up with just crazy ideas. But maybe actually read the article and not just look at the comments in the comment section. Insane, I know. But that's just the way I am. Now, I think it's only fair that I point out that there were some good comments too. They weren't all negative ones. But I do find these negative ones rather disturbing. The notion that society doesn't care about the medical well-being of women and they just rush any medication onto the market without any care for the side effects is crazy. Now, I will admit, maybe 60 years ago, maybe the pill was rushed onto the market, as many other drugs 60 years ago probably were as well. I don't know, but I imagine that the process has become a lot more refined and sophisticated these days, with a lot more checks and balances. So the notion that, society just doesn't care about the well-being of women or the side effects is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And the fact that these women see the pill as a negative when so many feminists have claimed that it liberates women. Now, to be fair, I'm not suggesting these women are feminists. I have no idea if they are or not, although I suspect that some of them, at least some of them, probably are. But seeing the pill as a negative seems to be going against what's been the feminist message for 60 years, and I find that fascinating. Although I do understand that in the feminist mindset, everything is oppression, even the positives, obviously still oppression. Any slight discomfort to a woman is obviously oppression. But what I really find disturbing is that some of these women seem to want revenge on men. They seem to enjoy the fact that men will suffer from using birth control, because apparently women have been forced to suffer for 60 years under the shackles of the contraceptive pill, the female contraceptive pill. So now it's men's turn to suffer. It's like they want a form of revenge, and I do find that very, very disturbing. I think it says a lot about these particular individuals. Now, just let me finish up by saying, with any medication, not just the contraceptive pill, be it male or female, you should always talk to your doctor about possible side effects, and you should always examine the cost-benefit scenario. Do the benefits of the particular medication outweigh the negatives? And do some research online. Look at the possible side effects. Go to the company that makes the drug, and hopefully they should have a list of possible side effects. And I'm sure there are some reliable medical sites too, which will also list the possible side effects. And talk to your doctor about these possible side effects. And if you start having the side effects. Talk to your doctor. And if they get too severe, stop taking the medication. Obviously, depending on what it is and the cost-benefit scenario. I mean, obviously, if it's going to save your life, then it's worth the negative side effects. But be informed and talk to your doctor and do some research. That's just part of being an adult and taking responsibility for your own life and having autonomy. It's a much better way of living than just crying about the patriarchy oppressing women for 60 years because of the female reproductive pill, and for some reason still taking it. Now, there is one more comment I want to look at. I saved this one for last, and you'll probably figure out why. She says, men won't take this. They are big wusses. You can't even drag them to the doctor when they're dying. Yeah, a friend lost her husband because he refused to go to the ER with the flu until it was too late. You think men will willingly go to take a pill that might interfere with their libido? Well, that's an interesting point. Her friend's hubby wouldn't go to the ER when he was sick with the flu. I wonder why that is. I guess if we were to ask some feminists, they would tell us that it's macho stereotypes and toxic masculinity and masculinity so fragile and all these other things. But, you know, I think there might be another reason why a man sick with the flu who's half dying wouldn't go to the ER. I wonder what that reason might be.
How do you think I feel? Got a stupid cold, haven't I? Thanks a lot.
Poor darling, you should have said something. I'd have come down and made you some soup.
I called for you. I said, Laura. You didn't come. So I dialed 999.
What?
Where is he? Quickly, love. Okay, son, everything's gonna be fine.
I'm gonna die.
Not if we can help it.
My head's so burny.
How did this happen?
Oh, he caught the cold off me.
Just don't think, do you?
I'm a bit confused. Hasn't he just got a cold?
For God's sake, woman, he's a man. He's got a man cold. Do not, under any circumstances, move from this bed, okay? You, take this bell. When he rings it, I want you to come to him and rub his head and say, "Poor little bunny."
Poor little bunny.
Okay, that's good. Let's go. We've got a man in Cantor Avenue with a hurty knee.
Sorry, what about me?
What?
Well, I've got a cold too.
Have you not heard of Lancet?
Laura, I want some soup. And I want to watch CBB.
Right, guys, not feeling great today. Just making myself a lemsip.
What are you doing?
Just making a lemsip for the virus.
You've not got a virus. You've got a cold. All right, I've got a cold and I'm going to work.
It's not affecting my girlfriend. I mean, sure, she's got a blocked nose and she's sneezing and she's coughing, but she's still able to go to work. It must not affect women. Apparently it's only affecting guys too because women are immune. As if we've not got enough on our plates, like trying to figure out how to spend our higher wages. All they've got to worry about is childbirth.
What do you mean? I sound fine. Like, this is my normal voice, hello, and this is my ill voice because I'm blatantly ill. Hello? Hello? So it's definitely not smallpox. But it feels like it could be smallpox. Hello?
Well, I was just your average John Doe, and I go to work every day, go about my life, normal life, but one day I got an awful tickle in my throat, and I got sore bones, high temperature, very bad temperature. I wasn't able to function.
Did you go to the doctor?
No, sure. Mary said there was no need. And she said to me, just go to work. Sure, I went into work, and the minute the boss saw me, he knew straight away, luckily enough. He said, get down to A&E. So he brought me down to A&E. I went straight in, and sure, that place, the way it is down there, it was going mental, like with all broken bones, accidents. There was a few car accidents, I think. But the minute they saw me, lucky enough, they brought me straight in. They knew it was serious, like, and they brought me straight in. And they had, I think they had 3 or 4 nurses looking after me. They were giving me Lemsip. One of them put on a lovely DVD for me, and there was another one rubbing my forehead. And any time any of them needed to go out of the room or anything like that, they'd call in another nurse, like, just to make sure I was okay to rub my forehead or whatever. And but then the doctor came in, and he went mental at Mary. He went really mad at her now, and sure. Actually, you may as well tell that, Mary.
Well, the doctor said that we were extremely lucky to have caught it when we did, because if we'd left it, even a couple of more hours, we could have lost Joe. And I suppose, it just brings it home to you, the seriousness of the whole thing, and, it helps you kind of realise really, how important life is and how quickly it can go on you, with something so serious as man flu, and just helps you prioritise things a bit,
to be honest, I'm still not feeling 100% from it, because some of the symptoms were brutal. I had a red nose,
yeah.
I had constantly a wet tissue in my pocket. I had did you hear that bit of wheeze there still? I had I was only getting about 7-8 hours sleep a night. It was shocking.